We've got your early morning traffic update in Columbus. Fair warning, things are blocked in every direction out there. Stay safe.
And we speak to noted chiropractor Leonard Fournette about his new procedure in which he can realign an Ole Miss defender at once.
Sounds painful. All that and more this week on Wake Up College Football.
Good jazz hands. I was not anticipating that.
Thank you.
Welcome to week 8 of Wake Up College Football. We are more than halfway through the season. It goes by so quickly.
So, they grow up so fast.
Oh, God, they're already so big. We're marking the wall just as the weeks go by. His name
Not
is
for Michigan State so much. It's like, not really growing. Okay.
Michigan State and Oregon on the race to one conference victory.
Somebody's going to get there.
Really?
Rutgers almost beat them both to it.
That's true.
Almost.
They were
Damn
so
you,
close.
Minnesota.
Oh, okay. His name is Ryan Nanny. My name is Dan Rubenstein. We have a special plan for today's show.
Yeah.
Now that we are into the season enough to feel like we have a good concept of where teams stand and how they've perhaps evolved.
Right. Well, so we came up with this in part because you look back at the preseason top 25 rankings, and it just looks funny at this point because you're like, oh, Stanford was there. That's fine. Oh, look,
Notre Dame.
Look, there's an Ole Miss. There are a lot of teams that you're just like, obviously we did something wrong when and this happens every year, but this is sort of our chance to sort of look back before we get to the end of the season when it's sort of too late and sort of say, we're sorry. We're sorry for the mistakes we made before the season, early in the season. Everything we did, everything that we were wrong about. Not everything, because we don't have an hour and a half on this.
Do you hear that sound, by the way?
What's that?
It's the brigade of people saying, we should have polls until October. Well, this is why we should have preseason polls, I tell ya.
I mean, I agree with that, but only because I think it would be funny to have everybody just scream about, like, well, they haven't beaten a ranked team when rankings don't exist yet.
No rankings at all.
But where do you want to start? Who do you want to apologize to first?
So let's start apologizing.
Okay.
I would like to start apologizing, and I'm going to keep it personal at the top. I'm going to apologize to Oregon, Stanford, Michigan State, and Notre Dame because I was talking them up before the season started, all of those teams, and I want to apologize to anybody whose hopes I raised that those teams would be good, including myself.
Right, yeah.
Because I feel deflated and sad that I decided to respect all of those teams. Yeah, I do feel bad.
The good news for you is this. There is no team that you talked up, beefed up, sort of like got the word out there for, we're beating the drum for harder than Washington.
That's true.
And Washington has really paid off for you.
Listen, I'm gonna look at my camera right now.
So you're 1 for 5.
You're welcome,
You're Mendoza
Washington.
lining. Great job.
You're welcome, Washington.
Yeah. You've earned it.
What about you?
I'm thinking back about all those teams that you've mentioned now because
What is the biggest surprise of those 4?
I think Michigan State.
See, I think Stanford.
Okay, I mean, Stanford, I think we agree now that we underrated how important Kevin Hogan was to their offensive identity. They've had injuries. They've also mostly lost to good teams, I think.
Yeah, but not in pretty fashion at all.
No, they haven't.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. But then you look at Michigan State and you're like, okay, you're getting beat by BYU at home.
Right.
You're getting beat by Maryland. Michigan State can barely beat anybody.
Yeah, the weird thing about Michigan State is that they were built in such a way where they didn't rely on any one very specific thing to win. It's not like offensively they're like, well, we run the air raid, and if we don't have if we don't have a good quarterback, we can't do anything.
I hope there's somebody who just now is like, oh, Michigan State doesn't run the air raid.
Oh no!
I thought they were just bad at it.
They were very bad at the air raid.
Let's flip this though.
Yeah.
You mentioned Northwestern.
Yes.
Northwestern is on our list of apologies
in a
positive direction because this team started out 1-3, lost to Western Michigan.
After a good 202015, though. We should have respected them more.
Rode the boat, lost to Western Michigan.
Yeah.
But they ripped off 3 straight wins. They seem to have righted things enough so that everybody can sort of put out the fires around this program and say, okay, we stumbled out of the gate, but we can still make a bowl game, beat somebody decent in the bowl game, build on it. I mean, look, Northwestern, I don't think we ever promised you that you were a likely playoff participant.
Correct.
But We're sorry. We're sorry that we shoveled dirt on your grave a little too early.
Yeah, and they've done it it's not like they have all these superstar offensive players where they run a crazy system, they have these big explosion plays. They've just been efficient.
Also not an air raid team.
Not an air raid team. Let's just apologize to all the teams we misclassified as air raid teams.
Boston College.
We are so sorry.
Duke. Georgia Tech. Yeah, all the ACC teams, basically. I also want to apologize to Utah.
Yeah.
Because Utah, we barely talked about you this season. You have one loss. You are in contention for the Pac-12 South. In theory, if we're talking about teams that still have a stake in the playoff race, Utah has to be there, considering they can win out, say they won the Pac-12, have one loss. Maybe that ends up being enough at the end of the year. But mostly I want to thank Utah today, more than apologize, for what they've done for America's retirees.
Oh, that's true.
You know, you worry, your parents are of a certain age, my parents are of a certain age, and you worry as they get older, like, are they going to find enough to do? Are they going to have ways to occupy their time? Joe Williams, Utah running back, retired about a month ago. He's a little younger than our folks.
Yeah, but he invested wisely.
So I get to say this sentence, and it's true. UCLA's defense gave up 332 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground to a retiree. That's true. You can't say it's not.
It's factually correct. I can't correct you.
So thank you, Utah, for making sure America's seniors are active and spry. And thank you, UCLA's defense as well.
Oh my God, so generous to the greatest generation. Joe Williams and the greatest generation. While we're in the Pac-12 South, I'd like to apologize to USC. Early on in the season, so a 52-6 loss to Alabama.
Which is Alabama.
It's Alabama.
We're the assholes there.
But it's one of those things where they could have lost 38-13.
They could have, and it was program-wise historic.
Yes, it was historic. I don't know if they had a single play in the red zone, maybe one play in the red zone. So it was not particularly pretty in a killing effort to our loss to Alabama, and then 27-7, I believe, to Stanford, where we started tossing some dirt on Clay Helton and USC. Yeah. And suddenly, with the addition of I like calling him Sam D. Arnold, but Sam Darnold, the quarterback for USC. And
is that Sam D. period Arnold, or Sam D. Is it like Darnold?
It's Sam D. period Arnold in the tradition of Sam B. Richardson, the former Iowa State quarterback,
and Ann B. Davis, the housekeeper from Brady Bunch.
You want to just talk about Brady Bunch?
No.
But yes, we piled on USC early on, and they righted the ship. Clancy Pendergast has done a very good job with that defense. They're getting a ton of pressure on quarterbacks. They've beaten a couple of decent teams, and they are now in position to they're the team, them and Utah, to put the fear of life into to Washington moving forward. And USC has done a great job, and I don't think Clay Helton's job ever should have been, but it's still not in danger.
Yeah. Going back to old timers. Bill Snyder.
Yeah.
Bill Snyder is definitely older than both of our parents.
Yep.
All of our parents.
Yes. Combined.
We have more than 2 parents. Bill Snyder 7-4 versus Texas now.
It's amazing.
Texas all-time in Manhattan is 1-7. I have no apologies for Texas today. We have a lot of teams that we should, that we were wrong about, that we mislabeled. Texas is not one of them, man.
You know what I'm not going to apologize for?
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for saying this. Bill Snyder, University of Texas head coach.
Oh my God.
If you can't beat them, pay them a ton of money. That's Texas's motto. It's right there on their school crest.
Wow.
Anyway, that's all I have about Texas. Is there anybody you would like to apologize to in earnest in the Big 12?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. West Virginia.
Yes.
Watching Oklahoma and Texas Tech set basically every yardage record possible last night in a game that was devoid of any sense. The first down number in this game is something like 78. That may be wrong, but I don't think it's that wrong. And everybody looks at this and says, well, it's the Big 12. They don't play defense. Nobody plays defense in the Big 12. And for a lot of teams, that's true. West Virginia is not one of them. They're 32nd overall in yards per play allowed. They're 7th in points per play allowed. And they played Texas Tech last week, and they held them to 17. This week, they played TCU. Just stomped all over them. TCU 2 of 11 on third down, had one play that gained 20 yards or more. One. They just, West Virginia is doing good things on defense. They have the bulk of their schedule left to go, admittedly, but they look strong. Baylor didn't play this week.
Right.
Baylor's also putting up great defensive numbers. So It feels weird that we're looking at the Big 12 and saying nobody plays defense, and we're ignoring the two undefeated
best teams
What? What are we doing? Yeah, of course,
ones.
the middling to bad teams don't play good defense. That's why they all have these losses already.
And that's true of every conference.
Yeah.
The middling and bad teams don't play great defense.
Well, that's not true. Florida's a middling or bad team, and they play
dare
great
you.
defense. Yeah, I'm sorry. So
yes.
yeah, West Virginia. We have not given you enough credit so far, and I expect that we will going forward, or we will have to apologize for this apology. Either way.
They've allowed 10, 11, 17, and 16 points against Power 5 teams. TCU scored 40 against them. They quartered that.
Last year. Yeah.
Last year they scored 40. They quartered that this year. And I think 2 years ago this week, TCU, and this was not against West Virginia, but just to see where TCU is coming from, they scored 82 points 2 years ago in Week 8.
Yeah.
And now they're scoring 10
Yeah.
in a Big 12 game. So West Virginia, holy hell, getting after it. I love it.
And also for West Virginia and Baylor are the two teams that we collectively, I don't mean you and I,
Right.
just don't mention in the playoff conversation at all. Once Oklahoma hit 2 losses, and once TCU really faded out of contention very early on, we were all like, well, the Big 12's not getting it. Like, I don't know. What do we do now? We have to sort of confront this at some point, but we won't do it today. Who do you want to?
I just quickly want to apologize to Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
You deserve better on defense.
deserve
I want to
something on
apologize on
defense.
behalf of the defense, just because 734 yards yesterday. And it was on like 7 trillion attempts, but still, he has a separated shoulder, and he accounted for, I think, 100 plays on offense.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but he decided to go to Texas Tech.
True.
It's not like he enrolled somewhere that was known for defense. There's no like false promise here.
Right, that's true. But maybe just allow 50.
It's sort of like
just 50.
It's sort of like booking a trip to Rome and being like, hey, I was promised very good Indian food. I am very upset by the lack of naan in Rome.
True.
Let's see. Let's just go straight to the top now.
Let's do it.
Number 1, Alabama. I don't really have an apology for you
No.
because we all sort of said before the season you were going to be in the playoff. We all thought you were going to. I think they've reloaded better than I thought they would.
Yes.
They continue to look super efficient on offense. They're outscoring opponents by 9.6 points in the third quarter of games, that's what's really scary about Alabama is that you can hang with them for a half.
Yes.
And then they go in the locker room and they're like, okay, so we've identified these 8 weak points on the body and we're going to stab all of them. And that's what they do. They just sort of find the momentum, take it away from you, and exploit everything you do wrong. And you to beat Alabama at this point, you can't turn the ball over. No. You have to take advantage of field position. You can't take those huge. You literally can't have huge minus plays. And
Nope.
because they're Alabama, they're going to force huge minus plays. They're way better on third down this year than they were last year by like 12%. Their interception percentage on offense is down.
With a true freshman.
This is a frightening Alabama. I apologize if you have to play Alabama.
Yeah.
That's the apology.
I just picture at halftime, you look at the pressure points, these are how we're going to murder people, but Nick Saban just saying, all right, raise your hand if you are a 5-star who's 6'5", between 260 and 310 pounds, and 49 hands go up.
And the kicker is like, nah, I'm working on it. I got to bulk up a little.
I bench more than you think, but that's basically where we're at as Alabama. I'd like to apologize to LSU, because it turns out LSU losing to Auburn and losing to Wisconsin, and listen,
by a combined 7 points.
Yeah, by a combined touchdown. They may have wanted to fire Les Miles no matter what.
And there were obviously reasons not related to this season.
Yes.
Why that was so.
Right. And it was fair to say, even against those good teams with legitimately really good defenses, that LSU was unable to adjust offensively. They were stubborn offensively. So there is truth to that. But dealing with LSU as a whole, LSU lost to really good teams and are now beating decent to good teams emphatically.
Thrashing them.
Yes.
500 plus offensive yards against Ole Miss. Leonard Fournette comes back from injury. 309 total yards. Yeah, LSU, I don't know. LSU is not to the point yet where I'm like, ooh, I think they can give Alabama a game.
Right.
But it's more interesting than it was 4 weeks ago.
Yep.
The other team in the West that we should apologize to is Auburn.
Yes, it is.
Auburn was another team that we sort of said early, oh, this offense can't do anything. They'd lost twice at home. They lost by 6 to Clemson and 13 to Texas A&M.
And I don't believe they let Clemson score 20 points in the process.
So these are like totally defensible losses. And what I really like about Auburn is early on we said, well, they're playing quarterback roulette. They can't get anything out of that position. They're inefficient. So they just said, you know what? We're just going to run the ball a shit ton.
Oh my
against Arkansas.
Before you say anything.
Yeah.
If you have any little kids watching this, it's not what he's about to say is not pretty.
Yeah.
And
if you're trying to teach your kids about a balanced diet, eat some vegetables, have some protein.
Yeah.
This is turn it off right now.
Not for you. Okay,
Auburn, 12 passes, 57 runs against Arkansas. Those 57 runs, 543 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The week before against Mississippi State, 18 passes, 56 runs. So they're very much admitting that they don't have a lethal passing attack. They just don't care.
They do not.
And I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Arkansas coming in with something like 117th against the run. So guys was like, let's make them stop what we're trying to do. Let's make them stop.
Yeah. And considering there are so many teams out there that you see like, oh, you're running for 6 yards a carry, but you keep throwing the ball just because you think you have to. Auburn says, no, friend, you don't. Auburn is also in that category of I'm not nearly to the point where I'm like, oh, Iron Bowl, that's going to be no. But I feel better about it than I did a month ago.
I feel better about either LSU or Auburn beating Alabama.
If they could just
combine forces.
They still wouldn't have very much of a passing game.
Oh my God, could you imagine Coach O and Gus Malzahn just like hanging out?
No.
They are two very different people. I like that vision. I'm just going to float into the ether thinking about that. Anybody else in the SEC East that you'd like to apologize to?
I mean, hardly anybody played yesterday. Kentucky managed to beat Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt won. Missouri lost to Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah.
Missouri, you're definitely in a rebuilding phase right now.
I'd like to apologize to
That's why you have all that insulation in your lungs. It sucks.
To untoward comments about Purdue because they're producing totally serviceable SEC quarterbacks. LSU and Florida, who now will play, are winning games with Purdue quarterbacks. Purdue is providing a super valuable service to college football on a big stage, and thank you. I'd like to apologize for not recognizing that.
One of them to Oregon.
Man, we have
I guess
now.
Oregon needs more Purdue linebackers.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Boy, we've gone 15, 16 minutes. We have not ripped the Band-Aid off yet. I feel, and I'm sorry if you're watching this being like, why the hell are they not talking about the fact that Ohio State lost to Penn State? Because Ohio State lost to Penn State.
And you were beating a drum before the season, like, who is James Franklin beaten?
Yeah.
Who will he beat?
Sorry. He did.
And
I was wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I'm totally fine being wrong.
Opinions.
Yeah. So if you come at me and say, hey, remember that? Yeah, I remember all of these times.
Vividly.
And I'll be wrong in the future.
Yeah.
This was a very, very, very strange game for Ohio State because they mostly did what they wanted to do. And they had just enough screw-ups and just enough lack of pass protection that it all just came unraveled at the end. A missed extra point, a punt block that led to 3 points for Penn State, and of course the field goal block that gets run back for the touchdown. 6 sacks allowed. It actually reminded me, in some respects, of the 2014 loss to Virginia Tech. In that game, you have 2 missed Ohio State field goals, both of which are from makeable distances. 7 sacks given up. JT Barrett participates in both of those games. They're obviously different. Virginia Tech jumped out to a lead, and Ohio State was playing catch-up, where here Ohio State blows a double-digit fourth-quarter lead, which an Urban Meyer team had never done.
Wow.
So,
what's also strange about this is who is one of the most, if not the most noted special teams coaches. When he has his hands on special teams, it's Ron Zook. Ron Zook.
Yeah.
No, Urban Meyer, his background in special teams is extraordinary.
Preaches the importance of it.
And,
Yeah.
And it ultimately completely undid, especially with the addition of the offensive line play, unable to protect Penn State. And this is, we started talking about Penn State. This is completely overlooking the point that even though they didn't get a ton from Trace McSorley, he completed a third of his passes, Saquon Barkley was the best running back on the field by a considerable margin.
But Curtis Samuel was the best player on the field.
Yes.
He only got 10 touches.
Right. It was very strange, especially in the first half, to see him completely ignored.
Yeah.
He has the long 70-some-odd yard touchdown run. But Saquon Barkley leads the way. Mike Weber did basically nothing. He had one long run, and other than that, it was sort of middling for him. And the defense of Penn State, losing their 3 best defensive linemen last year, rebuilding with a new coordinator on both sides of the field, the fact that it wasn't the prettiest way to win offensively, but the fact that they did not take a single play off focus-wise. They use the crowd to their advantage, and they pull out a win that perhaps they didn't do everything that they could have done offensively to earn.
The most important thing the Penn State offense did in this game,
Yeah.
as a whole, they never turned the ball over.
Yes,
Penn
huge.
State had one turnover. That was on a punt return, muffed punt return. The fact that they didn't set Ohio State up with those easy field position opportunities or those points where you're just like, well, they just ran back a touchdown and that was a point opportunity that just totally flipped on us. They never let the game get out of hand, and that's why they hung around long enough to be able to get that block return. So the block 6, I feel like blank 6 is a thing that we're going to overuse. It's going to be the gate of college football.
I'm trying to think if there's any other way around it, but at the moment, it's probably the easiest.
Right. I feel like for Ohio State purposes, we should call it block no. Is that too on the nose?
I like that. I like that a lot. While we're on the topic of playoff teams, or perhaps not playoff teams anymore, Houston Cougars.
Yeah. No, I don't think perhaps it enters into. They're not a playoff.
Not
team
a playoff team anymore. But in terms of this discussion at the beginning of the season, what we need to apologize for now. The expectation was Houston would if they go undefeated, and this was a phrase that we were saying in August.
Yeah.
And it is fun, and it is respect towards the expectations of a team that Houston has raised the bar so high, but to expect 13 wins in consecutive seasons, at least 13 wins, like 25, 26 wins, and what do we do about Houston when they go undefeated? It was almost like a when, not an if.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And once they beat Oklahoma, that only ratcheted way up. It's okay that you lost to Navy. It's still not okay that you lost to this SMU team.
No.
This is not, but this Houston team has played with fire a lot this season.
Yeah.
They played sloppy against Cincinnati. So I kind of get where it's happening. My theory is that Tom Herman just really doesn't want the Texas job. And so he's trying to sort of be like, you guys, you sure about this?
Yeah.
I'm very clumsy.
Especially with the timing yesterday. Texas loses to Kansas State, and he was like, oh no, my phone's blowing up. Red McCombs won't stop DMing me. And then he goes and loses to SMU. With some peace and quiet.
Texas, I feel like Kansas State is what I imagine basketball was like before the shot clock, where they're just like,
boom, doom, 4 corners.
What? Go ahead. Take it. What do you want to do? I'm going to win 5-0. Boy, Texas just...
But on that same note, let's apologize to Navy. Navy had an extraordinary year last year, and I think, and I can only speak for myself here, my view of Navy was without Keenan Reynolds and that super duper dynamic quarterback, and we see how much better these triple option, these flexbone teams are when they have that trigger man who's so excellent.
Yeah.
And I just think we figured, Navy's just not going to be the same without Keenan Reynolds. Guess what? They're ranked.
They're fine.
They beat a good Memphis team yesterday. They beat Houston, they've beaten Memphis. They are legitimately good and should be noticed more often.
Let's apologize to Western Michigan on behalf of the national media. Why are you not in the playoff picture? You're 8-0. Row.
And they beat a good Eastern Michigan team.
Boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Row that boat.
Which is probably better than the Michigan State at this point. Is Michigan State fourth in the state at this point?
Yes, absolutely.
Are they worse than Central Michigan or better?
Are there any small private schools in Michigan? I don't know.
Oh, God.
Is there like an Ypsilanti Tech?
Let's quick things that we've just totally glossed over.
Yeah.
Louisville dump trucked
Yes, they did.
NC State. And NC State's the team that I think we expected, based on what happened against Clemson, would at least make this game interesting.
A little more fight, yeah.
It was not. The most interesting thing about this game was that Lamar Jackson was in it way later than I thought he should have.
Yeah, they were up 45, 50 points. And Jackson takes the snap.
That just...
Weird.
Okay. Bobby Petrino, not always known for safety. So...
Was that something you thought of yesterday?
No,
you're just okay.
That's just all in here.
There it is.
This broken brain of mine.
Okay, anybody else in the ACC? Florida State, Clemson, Syracuse.
UNC wins again. Good for them.
Yeah, I just want to apologize to Boston College fans, just in general. I'm sorry.
We had the Virginia Tech game earlier this week. They're looking nice in Miami.
Yeah.
This all feels very familiar.
What a September, though. Am I right?
God, just awful.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else super interesting. I mean, Michigan dump trucked Illinois, but that's what you're supposed to do. And I will say this. I will apologize to Michigan on the following terms.
Okay.
you looked at Michigan's schedule and you said it's garbage. And by and large it is. Granted, Colorado has turned out to be a much stronger jewel in that particular crown than we thought it would be. But overall, Michigan has not played anybody terribly stout.
Iowa taking a step down, Michigan State's taking a step down. The back half of their schedule does not even look as promising as it once did.
But Michigan has just run rampant through pretty much all of it. And, you know, if we're going to say, gosh, it's really hard to go undefeated and we're going to say things like, you know, Ohio State, this happens to everybody. You have to give Michigan credit for, when they can, just turning the screws to teams.
Challenging a spot on 4th and 2, up 30.
For faking punts up 34.
Yeah.
You know what? It's better than the alternative. If you said, would you rather run through a weak schedule, or would you like to stumble? We don't go out there and say, oh, so-and-so has played the hardest schedule in the country. That's why it's okay that they're 3 and 4. No, we don't say that.
No, we don't.
So Michigan, I apologize.
Yeah.
And I ask that you please, for the love of everything holy, just like tone it down a little.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But yeah, and it's not just Michigan. I like the fact that these great teams, Washington did something similar yesterday to Oregon State, and they ran a flea flicker or something when they were up 21-0. I like that the relentless attention to detail, where it's just like, look, we're going to play better teams than Illinois, and in that case, Oregon State. Let's practice. Let's focus on every single play because, listen, maybe they notice something on that flea flicker that they can adjust for when they play Wazoo or Utah or something like that. Or maybe Michigan, in finding that spot, can be like, okay, we can run off this tackle instead or something like that, and we won't have to challenge a spot on 4th and 2 up, whatever. I like that relentless attention to detail. I apologize for making fun of Jim Harbaugh because now, as an Oregon fan, I would love Jim Harbaugh. I would love Jim Harbaugh so very much.
One last apology, and then we'll hit the Facebook comments. I apologize to everybody who's going to read a column about Ohio State being out of the playoff race.
Oh my God, they're not out.
Because we wrote this, we wrote this about Ohio State in 2014. We wrote this about Alabama.
Week 8 last year.
Let's just establish that if you're in the top 4 right now, it doesn't mean anything. It's good for you. It
Wonderful.
means you're not definitively out of the playoff race. But if you have a loss, you're okay.
It's going to be fine.
Especially if you're Ohio State, who can still very feasibly win out, play somebody possibly very highly ranked in the Big Ten championship game. Nebraska, I'm sorry that we haven't talked about you at all. Granted, you kind of had to come back to beat Purdue, so you didn't lose to them 2 years in a row. But here, we mentioned Nebraska. I know we got heat about that last week. I'm talking about Nebraska. Nebraska is maybe good. I still don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thrilling part of college football season. We can wait
standard.
We can wait until week 9.
Seal of approval.
Brian wants to know, please don't tell me Wazoo is good. They beat Oregon without Freeman, Stanford without McCaffrey, UCLA without Rosen, and now Arizona State without Manny Wilkins. Yeah, how dare Washington State injure all those players ahead of their games and then subsequently beat them. Such dastardly activity.
I think what I like about Washington State this year is that they have shown they can win a game in sort of multiple ways.
Yes.
They have their games where they run the ball really well. Against Arizona State, that was not one
Oregon.
of them. But they got the passing game going anyway. They've shown flashes of talent on defense. They're not a team that's as easy to figure out as they were before. They're not as one-dimensional as Texas Tech, for instance. So
Emmanuel is watching from Montreal. He just likes the show. Anything you want to say about Montreal?
I've never been, but I've heard
nice.
The food is really nice.
It's great.
And the weather within a very narrow time band is really
True. This is true. Logan Woodside at Toledo is about to break the single-season passing touchdown record for the Rockets. And they lost their head coach last year, too.
Is that Toledo's school record or the total?
I don't know.
Okay, because if it's the Toledo school record, I'm not. Anyway, go ahead.
But we apologize for not. He's had an otherworldly season for Toledo.
Okay.
So, we apologize for not mentioning that in an earlier week. Do you guys think Cal will make a bowl game? I guess we can apologize for not talking about Cal, but
how many? What? Cal's at 4 wins?
4-2, I believe.
4-2.
I mean, it's a great year to play Stanford. It's a great year to play Stanford.
And Cal has who left in the Pac-12 North? Wazoo?
Have they played Washington?
Oh no, they have not played.
They've not played Washington. Listen, a healthy Davis Webb and Cal's beat up too. They're not going to beat Washington, but at a healthy point with like an average defense, they could make that fun. I just don't think they're there.
Cal's a weird team this season.
Yeah.
But I think I think they can make a bowl this season. I don't know that they will, but I think they can.
Sure. A lot of people arguing about Leonard Fournette. I don't know why you would, because he's great.
What's the argument?
He's only going to be good for 2 more weeks until Bama, because they're going to shut him down because their defense is faster than ever.
Listen, at this point, I just want Leonard Fournette to stay healthy and go make money in the NFL.
We should talk about, we mentioned Texas Tech, but Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield had perhaps as perfect a performance yesterday. And listen, it's Texas Tech. Yeah. That's the caveat. That's the asterisk. It's their defense. But against their defense, still a defense. Finding all-purpose talent, everything talent, Joe Mixon, both on the ground and through the air. He was wonderful. Dede Westbrook now has 10 touchdowns in October, which is more than Georgia and Arizona State and all sorts of schools. South Carolina by himself.
Oh, it's more than South Carolina.
Yeah, I know.
My Lord.
Whoa, hope you're sitting down.
Pump your brakes.
People just spit out their tea.
South Carolina, way to beat UMass, by the way. Looked a little dicey there at the end. Don't think we didn't see it. We saw it.
The SB in SB Nation stands for Saquon Barkley now.
All right. Does it have to?
I don't think it does, but for the next 30 seconds, it does. Put it on the clock.
Approved.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we mentioned UCLA. A lot of people talking about Alabama. Charlie Strong, any parting words for Mr. Strong?
No, I mean, I'll go with Texas's official athletic department stance at this point, which is we have no comment.
No comments.
At this time. Would you want the Texas job?
Me personally?
Not you personally.
I would love it.
If you are rising coach of note, which Charlie Strong was at Louisville.
He was.
Let us be clear that this is not a situation like Will Muschamp getting the Florida job. And I know that I can't go a week without talking about Will Muschamp in Florida because I haven't dealt with it.
True.
Charlie Strong went to Louisville, built something very impressive, proved that he could, improve both sides of the ball.
On a growing stage,
recruit well, do all the things you think you would need to do to succeed at Texas.
Yep.
It didn't work out.
No, I think you need to be a very specific personality to sort of weather everything that there is, to sort of fight for who you want to be your assistants, which he did. He brought over Vance Bedford, although on the offensive side it was a little bit trickier, but did bring over Sean Watson initially. But I think in the way that like USC or Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State, you can't just, the job doesn't just win itself. It doesn't just recruit itself. Yeah. That's not the case anymore because the talent is so spread out. Look, Texas Tech can throw on anybody. Baylor can throw and run on anybody. Like Iowa State with a feisty Paul Rhodes can sort of upset anybody. Now he's no longer there, but it's a wider.
His spirit is there.
His spirit is there.
You can't get all of it out.
And so I think we sort of almost underappreciate guys like Urban Meyer and Nick Saban who are able to do it consistently at these huge places. It's near impossible to do. So you need that at Texas. And Mac Brown sort of came up in like a weird era of Texas where they're not as deep, I don't think, as they are now in the Big 12. So sure, it could be Tom Herman.
I think the biggest problem for Charlie Strong right now actually has nothing to do with Texas. Okay. It's that everything else has cooled down.
True.
Like Auburn, that job seems fine. Gus Malzahn seems totally fine right now. LSU, they got rid of Les Miles, but for stupid reasons, I'm still hoping that Ed Orgeron just has a great end to the season.
I want nothing more than that.
USC has calmed down.
Yep.
Notre Dame has not calmed down. And
not particularly. Oregon hasn't calmed down, no.
But by and large, there was this sense that, there's going to be all this upheaval. And it's like Florida State, things have calmed down there.
Yep.
So I think the problem can be that unlike past years, unlike past years, you may look and say, well, Texas kind of has more or less they're not competing with that much if they want to go after whoever they want, if they want to build the staff that they want.
Right. So we shall see. Not great. All right. On that note, I want to say something happy and fun because I don't want to go out on such a downer note.
Clemson, Florida State next week.
Clemson, Florida State next week should be wonderful. Deshaun Watson, Dalvin Cook, all sorts of fun. I love Dexter Lawrence in an unhealthy way, so there's that.
Maybe we'll talk to Bud on the show next week.
Let's talk to Bud next week. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Comment below. We'll keep the discussion going. That is always fun. We're two happy people. His name is Ryan Nanny. My name is Dan Rubenstein. Thanks again for watching. See you next week.